voice now.
Okay. Wow, David and Helene, that's like so exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did this big event on Saturday night, my 80th birthday, and a lot of things are beginning to take shape already. So
It just keeps getting better. It just keeps
Yeah.
getting better, right?
Better.
spirit just
Better.
doesn't let, it's not letting it up, not letting up at all. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah,
Wonderful,
feeling
wonderful.
very blessed and very happy about everything,
Good.
about our
Good, good.
lives. As long as my wife stays healthy, we're in good shape.
You guys are amazing. Okay, let's see here. I think we're on recording, but Facebook Live has not come on yet. So I'm always trying to time it right, you know?
And where you live?
Huh?
Where are you living?
I'm in Los Angeles,
Oh.
the city of angels.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
love it.
I used to live it.
Good. And you are in Colorado?
Right in the
New
middle of
York.
Manhattan.
Alive. Facebook.
Okay, we're live here. Let me let everyone in. Welcome, everyone. I am admitting everyone into the room now. Welcome to this wonderful evening. And Mynoo this evening is going to be talking, actually, number 14 of 52 in this series is social well-being. And she's going to share the 7 dynamics of social well-being. We're going to get into how to harmonize these dynamics and the key points of leveraging them. And each one of us is going to be able to transform any breakdowns into breakthroughs in any social disruption. So right before our call, we really tuned in and we're feeling that intensity and the presence of this beautiful energy coming through. And I'm looking very forward to this transmission by Mynoo. So welcome, everyone, for an exquisite evening ahead. Mynoo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And we are ready to rock and roll here. Yay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Yeah, it's very, very exciting, this particular series of the Human Miracle. And looking forward to this building block, which is one of the 6 pillars of full spectrum living, the social well-being. So let's begin, Dea, and you'll take care of the waiting room. And remember, you're an archetype representation of other human folk out there. So any questions, any observations, any clarifications that show up, just interrupt as I'm going on with it, and I'll bring you in and we'll have a discussion about it. So this is an interactive one. Looking forward to sharing more. So let's begin.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So yes, the 12 building block series is very much focused on full spectrum living. And under each one of these, we have a number of sessions. This series is about 52 sessions in all. And we are in the first leg of this particular journey. We're beginning today with social well-being. And there are going to be 2 sessions on this particular topic of social well-being. So we are talking about full spectrum well-being, as in thriving on all and firing on all 6 cylinders: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. So today we are focusing on social well-being. So, and the emphasis in the session today is on the 7 dynamics in social well-being, and how we harmonize these dynamics, and what are the key points of leverage in each one, that will enable us to transform any breakdown that might occur in the social well-being arena, in any social disruptions into breakthroughs. So let's begin, first of all, by understanding the meaning of dynamics itself. Dynamics, a dictionary definition of dynamics, is forces or properties which stimulate growth, development, or change in a system or a process. So the system that we are talking about here is social dynamics. The social well-being is what we are talking about. Dynamics is also sometimes described as the science of motion or movement of bodies and the action of forces in producing or changing this motion. So in the context of social well-being, we are going to look at what might be the physical, the moral, or intellectual forces, or any laws related to those that have an impact on social dynamics, and what we can do to transform them so that we actually experience social well-being and we start thriving in it, and not just surviving our social interactions. So the first dynamic is the dynamic of communication, but really the nuance of communication that we are talking about in this context is listening. Listening, or the lack of it, can result in a whole host of disruptions and breakdowns. We often say, and we often hear, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, I don't belong. And all of that is actually a function of listening. Sometimes it's a function of listening to ourselves. Other times it is a reaction to how others may or may not be doing it. So it is all, the first dynamic is about listening. So let's go deeper into this listening dynamic. Many of you who've done other work with me have heard me talk about listening filters. We walk around with a whole collection of filters, listening filters. And, sometimes when someone speaks, so I very often use the example of, if I was to stand here and say, good morning, welcome to this session on social well-being, the 7 dynamics. I'm Mynoo Maryel, and I'm a politician. Whatever your listening filter is of a politician will come down. And you'll start listening to me from that filter. That openness will disappear, and it will be directed and guided and confined, and boundaries created in terms of your own assimilation based on whatever your perception is of a politician. It is determined by that. So let's be aware of what are these filters that we have. I'm noticing one very interesting filter develop, at home. So I have 2 grandkids, as many of you heard me talk about. One is 5 and the other is 2. Now the 5-year-old is starting to self-actualize very powerfully. And we really have created a beautiful container for this very wise being to express himself fully. And he does, remember quite a lot of his soul journeys, and is extremely wise in some of the amazing nuances he comes up with in terms of, like voice of reason or words of wisdom. And he often says, I already know this, like he's amazing in gymnastics, like amazing, out of this world. And this little kid, seeing him perform, it's like, how do you even know this? Even the gymnastic teacher asked him, how do you know this? He says, come on, I already know. So he's got this, oh, come on, and I think one of the other mothers said, "Wow, he's developing a bit of an attitude." And it's like, okay, here comes one listening filter. A kid with an attitude. I think it's pretty cool if a kid has an attitude, but that's my filter, you know. So I'm like, okay, this one is an interesting one. Let's have a conversation. For this mom, it's like, oh, I've got to protect my children because Elio is now developing a bit of an attitude. So it all depends on whatever your filter is. The child is he's sincerely saying that he remembers how this human body works. Because I know that some of you have been here with me for a few years now, and even before he was born, I shared with you how he came to me and asked, how do I navigate the human race? Teach me, and then I will come forth. And many things that I share with you all came from that, interaction with him when he was in the womb, where we worked through the navigation of the human race. So he's coming from that understanding, so this kid is quite an observer. And even as a tiny tot, like 18-month-old, like there's a zero FOMO thing. I think both the grandkids have zero FOMO. They don't actually drop what they're doing to go and, join up with other kids. They will watch, observe, and then when they're ready, they will join. So he has this observation that he does. So I take what he's saying as, yeah, I guess this is real. I mean, the gymnastic teacher is teaching the entire class, and this one just maneuvers his body perfectly to get these actions that the gymnastic teacher wants him to do. So I take it because that's how I listen to him. But it's interesting, that listening filter, and it could suppress the child going forward. And it could mean that the social dynamic between someone who's a really good friend because of the listening filter of the mom about Elio, that friendship might also be impacted. And therefore, social well-being that was thriving might actually get a little bit disrupted. And breakdowns of a variety of types might occur. Like my son goes into, and he's got a different listening filter. He goes, "Oh, this Elio is just so overconfident. We've got to teach him that, it isn't really that helpful to be so overconfident. How will he deal with disappointments?" So I'm like, okay, we talk listening filters at home. So I said, that's good for you to be concerned, but don't make it a listening filter, because otherwise you'll just start snubbing him. Stop being overconfident. Observing it and then having a conversation with him where you don't hamper his confidence, but he also understands that if he fails, the world doesn't implode. Now, as a result of this conversation, we discussed it and we said, well, it all depends on how we give him feedback. If we are constantly celebrating him achieving all of this, and then if he fails, his world will implode. So what if we stop saying, oh, well done, and instead we actually say to him, this is really well done because I like the way you observed and you listened. And then you followed the instructions exactly. And it's really great that you do it with such attention to detail. So then his world doesn't implode. Because he would, in the other, just feedback, yay, well done, he will assume that the way he gets recognized is when he does well. Whereas this way, we found that we were actually able to have a wonderful conversation, and he was able to explain what he thought about how the teacher was teaching. And it was interesting. So just that little bit of understanding of this particular dynamic of listening and turning around how we gave feedback to him And, we'll see how it shows up going forward. I know for myself, on the one hand, I had my dad who's absolutely a genius when it came to economics, maths, physics, those kind of subjects, and was really keen to teach his daughters that. And I had a particular um, propensity towards science subjects, so physics, maths, and stuff was interesting to me. So my dad was really keen to teach me, but he had no patience. So he would be like, why can't you even get this in your head? Why can't you understand even this little piece? How are you going to learn the whole syllabus? So I'm like left feeling, this is, I'm just so terrible at maths. And actually, we did have a conversation about it much, much later in life. And his thing was, I wanted to, and then I started cutting out. Now, in my desire to not have my dad teach me, I decided I have to conquer this. I just have to become so good at maths that it'll blow him away and there'll be no need for him to teach me anymore. And I did become really good at it, in all of those like really difficult subjects, I became really good at them. I mean, like to such an extent that, there was like a group of students selected and there was only one student from schools and the rest were all college graduates and postgraduates to come together on a very specific 3-year project as a part of understanding nuclear science. And I was the only school student that was chosen just because my maths was so good and my grasp of physics was so good. So my dad was really proud of it. And I would like, anytime he would want to talk about it, I would go, it's all fine, it's all fine, I've got it all handled. So my dad was telling me much later on that, I wanted to say to you that I knew that you had this genius. So my style might have been very odd, but that was because that's the only way I've learned to support people to rise to the occasion and take on a challenge, to put them down. And maybe that was not the right way of doing it with you. But you never gave me a chance to say to you how proud I was of what you achieved. And he says, I would discuss, and my mom said to me that we would discuss it often, where my dad would say to her that, I knew that she was capable of this. But again, it was a listening filter I developed for my dad, that he just puts me down. So he had no chance of getting through to me. And that destroyed the social dynamic in our relationship. And in many ways, it probably destroyed the social dynamic in terms of whatever I had with men who would show up in a form of authority. And I'm sure that impacted, whatever occurred in my life going forward.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, it's never too late. Staying with listening. There's another aspect of listening that I've uncovered, and I use it in the work that I do with our business collective, which is how you listen to transform performance. So I teach people, we do an exercise where I teach them to listen to someone as if they are a complete waste of time. And I ask the person who is speaking to talk about something that they're passionate about. And the people listening listen to them as if they're a complete waste of time. The person who's talking about whatever it is that they're passionate about very soon lose connection to their passion. And they start withdrawing. And the whole space becomes so heavy. Then I get them to do another exercise where I ask someone to speak about something that is very mundane and routine. And they're speaking about something mundane and routine, and I ask people to listen to them as if they are their most revered master, like the Dalai Lama. That it's amazing that they're even speaking to them. So hold on to every word that they're saying. And this little mundane, waking up in the morning and brushing my teeth discussion or conversation goes into a whole variety of forays. And the whole room is buzzing with excitement. And all people are talking about is how they chose what dress to wear, or brushing their teeth or washing their face or something. And it just goes from there. The transformation lies in how they were listened to. Listening is a very powerful dynamic. It is a powerful action that has this propulsion force to transform your social well-being. Even the toughest and the most broken down relationships, if you shifted your listening, because after all, we are all magnificent beings in human disguise. The human form itself is the frequency of love. But as a human disguise, when we are disconnected from the love frequency and we walk around in this human disguise, this is where we take all the hits and fractures develop. Magnificence is not diminished at all. So you can actually, whoever you thought was, complete waste of time, you can turn it around simply by listening to them as your most revered master.
Mm-hmm.
And see what emerges from there.
Mynoo, I have
Yes.
something to say.
Yes.
So I 1000% love what you're saying. And when I practice with my clients, often there's a huge breakdown in listening and communication. And the magic happens once they feel safe and they feel heard and honored, and they are able to listen to each other again. And that's the whole thing. The whole social it changes and shifts at that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Very
so
true.
much. Yeah, so that's that. It's just a huge part of social dynamics because we don't listen to each other often in relationships.
Yeah.
So I love this one. Thank you.
And we pretend we are having a conversation, but it's an exchange of commands that's taking place. We are commanding them, then we see whatever they're saying as a command, and that's where relationships start breaking down.
Or
And
they don't listen. They already have their response, or they're not actually hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have not listened, and that's why they come up with, okay, this one's commanding me, I'm going to command back. But they haven't listened.
Yeah.
And we all slide into that. So I go into turn it, the moment you have any reaction, remember, reaction is a reactivation of an emotional trigger. So the moment you have any reaction, it immediately says to you, a big filter has come down. Your listening is through a filter. So you're not actually listening. You're judging, evaluating. Listening has disappeared. Communication has disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let's look at the second dynamic. The second dynamic is the fact and meaning dynamic. So, our mind brain, as I call it, our mind oscillates. It's about survival, and it oscillates between past and future. And whilst many people say, oh, I completely unconditionally accept the past, I focus my attention on the future because that's where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. But hey, here's a secret. What's in your future? That which occurred in the past. The only reality is what is. Because neither the future nor the past actually exists. So if you were to take one situation. So my question was, I get that. So how does this affect social dynamics? So I thought, okay, I'm going to take one situation and where I felt the social dynamics was broken. And I'm going to look at what postmortem it and understand this fact and meaning dynamic. And really what I found was something occurred and I made it mean something. And then I started acting on the meaning. And then that meaning, acting on meaning, which is not real, only generates more stuff that actually, again, is a ton of meaning you've given it. And then suddenly you're only, a mind, when it oscillates between past and future, because it is about survival, then it is actually a very efficient meaning-making machine. You go meaning, 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 suddenly the facts are forgotten. And the social dynamic completely breaks down. But you can go back and restore and resurrect it if you simply went back to what was the fact that actually occurred. There's a very interesting example of a body of work I'm doing with a few people recently. And there's a complete breakdown in the family dynamic there. And, and it was a beautiful dynamic that they had before, but now it is completely broken down. Like the elders can't do anything right. And the youngsters just simply can't get their act together. And they are lost and refusing to listen to any wisdom from the elders. And when I went back to what has happened here, all that had occurred was the college-going students of this particular family, the college-going kids, wanted to go away somewhere on a vacation. And they asked the elders that, we would like to go away because the elders were going to pay for it. And one of the elders, and it's a group of 3 of them that, lived together with these young adults. And one of them basically said, do you realize that, quite a big part of this place is snowed in and it's closed. So some of the most beautiful spots you actually won't be able to get to. They made the youngsters made it mean that they really don't want us to have fun. But really all he was asking was that, do you realize? But he could not complete his sentence because all he was going to say is, what about, going there in the spring when the snow is still there and it's starting to melt a little? So, so many of the roads open up so you can trek to some of the more beautiful spots. That's what he wanted to get to. But the young adults immediately went into, well, you're always stopping us. You're always interfering in what it is that we want. You're absolutely not interested. And then now the elders started going on a defensive, saying, no, it's not like that. Yeah, but even then, that particular time we wanted to do this and you didn't let us do it. So, but we'd already sorted that out. You understood why, we had asked you not to do it at that particular point in time, this other incident that they were referring to. And, and the dynamic now is all about attack, defense, attack, defense, attack, defense. And then the elders started attacking them back. Everybody was disheveled, dissatisfied, and all the listening filters and the guards came down powerfully with the foundations even more reinforced. Oh, this generation gap. So I was called in at this point, by the elders and I said that if you're calling me in and they already have a listening filter and I too am an elder, it's actually not going to deliver anything. They're simply going to come into it with that listening filter. So find another young adult who can come in and support this, or get a young adult who's done my work to suggest it to the group of young adults. So anyway, I went in there. I was able to, they were quite happy to have me in there as a mediator in this instant. And I just simply took them to the fact of what happened. And literally within a matter of 2 to 3 minutes, a plan was made. They were going to go there in the spring, and they chose another location, a coastal location, to go away. But what we saw was happening there, the reason why our mind is a meaning-making machine, because it is all about your survival. And the mind doesn't do the meaning-making. It's thoughts that come in. And the thoughts, it's a meaning thought. And the idea is that you still make the choice, because as a human, you're born with choice. So the disruption is a thought, and you make the choice to hang on to that thought, and more thoughts get generated from that thought, which actually is a meaning that you gave. And then it goes from there. So then suddenly you start overthinking, but you're overthinking meaning. There is no focus on any solution. So when I just brought them back to, okay, look, the fact is you shared excitedly this amazing itinerary that you'd created, and this person said, well, do you realize that's all that happened? That, quite a large chunk of the area you're going to is closed. That's all that happened. So now the question to ask is, so what are you suggesting? Do you want to ask that question? I asked the young adult who was the most, boisterous in terms of voicing his disapproval. And he said, yeah, so what are you suggesting? And this guy says, well, why don't you go there in the spring and find another place to go this time around? Maybe a coastal town. And they were like, yeah, that's great. Done. Resolved. So the good news about this particular dynamic, the fact meaning dynamic, is you can resolve any breakdowns in social well-being by returning back to the facts.
Asha made a comment that she says many times when this happens, she feels like it's better to just maybe lay low and keep quiet and not really give any suggestions. So,
Yeah, but again, why? Why does it feel that way? Because there's some meaning you have given to what is occurring. Deep down, just always ask, do I feel an unequivocal flow of yumminess within me when I decide to lay low? Because you've suppressed your own desire to communicate. And that's fine. You may choose to say, I do wish to communicate, but right now everything is too heated up. I'm going to lay low. Mm-hmm. It's fine. You'll be in an unequivocal flow of yumminess. But lodge that this particular lack of not communicating is miscommunication, because it will play on you. Because next time it creates a filter. So next time you observe a dynamic occurring, which starts to have sort of the similar tone of voice, your listening filter will come down about the person with that tone of voice saying, there he goes again. Now that person may have a very valid point, but because you've developed a listening filter, because you've chosen to use the meaning as your justification for not communicating and laying low, it actually starts to impact your dynamic with the person. So I'm not saying that you necessarily speak when there's a heated discussion going on. Like I did not speak when this mother said, hey, Elio is developing a bit of an attitude. I just observe, okay, there's a listening filter there. So we had a discussion with Elio that sometimes people may or may not agree with your point of view. Doesn't mean that they are bad or you're wrong or they're wrong. You don't need to go into that. It's like, okay, that's you welcome their point of view. And you decide, you choose for yourself what it is that you wish to follow. It didn't make sense for me to go tell the mother anything, because without explaining the whole preamble of listening filters, it wouldn't make any sense. So the friendship between Elio and Ilya is brilliant, even now. And Ilya does say to him, hey, Elio, this is in your imagination. Yeah, man, it's in my imagination, but I feel I know. I trust my visions, he says. So it's interesting to observe how that occurred. So you will make a choice, but do it with clarity, discernment, and own that. Suppressing yourself, again, there's a host of meanings that you can start giving to that suppression. You can start attributing this person in how their attitude is. They really suppress me. They hold me back from expressing myself. You know, I know I've used that in the past myself. I can never be myself in front of this person. But that's just a meaning I gave at some point when something like that occurred, which called me to suppress myself. Does that make sense, Jia?
Yes, very much. So you make the choice with clarity and discernment.
Yeah, yeah. And when you return to the facts, all that would have happened is, you know, the person raised their voice, or the person just said, ah, or gave you a smirk.
And sometimes, you know, it's not time to say anything. You know, there are times where it's not time to say anything. So,
Yeah, and you're doing it as a conscious choice. You remain empowered in that.
right. As long as you're empowered in your choice.
Yeah, yeah. And really I always look at why am I like with this mom, Elio has an attitude, Elio is developing an attitude. Part of me there was like for a spur of a second, it was like I was defensive, but it immediately disappeared when I became an observer immediately. And Jill, Elio's mom, and I talked about it, you know, about what had occurred. I could have gone into defending my grandchild. But the grandchild wasn't looking for anything like that. You know, he was just going to be his free spirited self, and a little battle would have ensued that would have damaged his social interaction with his friend. You know, so at that time it was a powerful choice that, okay, there's something brewing here. We've got to empower Elio. So it wasn't a suppression, which would have been held against this particular interaction. That's the key thing. Don't suppress. Make an empowered choice. What often happens when we suppress is we hope for the best. And all that does is it adds the meaning, it adds that layer of meaning, which is worry. So rather than hoping for the best, you know, make an empowered choice. The third dynamic in social well-being is there is only you. There is only you. There always has been, always will be, and is. And it is not always about you. So once you get that how I experience a social interaction is entirely about where I am, to rectify, to create more empowerment in a social interaction, thinking that I'm going to go and fix this other person is really not going to deliver social well-being. It may just multiply frustration. Come back to you and look at what is it that you can do. Begin with listening. What if I listen to this person like the Dalai Lama? He may be screaming and shouting right now, or snubbing me off and shutting me out. And I'm just going to listen to him with the curiosity of the Dalai Lama, or whoever it is that you revere. and see how your presence with this powerful listening and receiving of this person transforms it. And it may or may not transform it, but it will interrupt their pattern. And that interruption of the pattern may be that they get up in a huff and walk away because they've never been listened to in this way. But it will change a pattern that you may find with a particular person, because you've chosen not to come in with judgment and fixing, but you've chosen to be proactive. And in each, that proactive choice is calling you to be in action every moment. And the fourth dynamic is about the moment itself. I'm going to come into that. But this is the most important thing. There is only you. Your words, your words are spoken words, thinking words, feeling words. Your words give you your experience of how the world occurs. Your words, and they could be meaning words that you may not have expressed at all, they are the ones that give you the experience you have in your social dynamics. When you have the choice what words to use, it's up to you, because your words determine your vibration. But who chooses that? Only you do. Only you do. There was a body of work I was doing with a group. I've got a program that I'm developing called the Ultimate Detox, and we were working on one particular section of that, and there was all this conversation about, you just don't trust us. You just don't trust us. And I had spoken to these three groups of people separately, and each of them was complaining about how the other didn't trust them. So when I brought them together, I said, okay, let's look at this trust thing. What about you? If you just take on there is only you, what about you do you not trust? And they each had something very, very pertinent. And literally, when they discovered that for themselves, this triad, which was not even a triad, it was like really falling apart, three people going in completely different directions, immediately became collaborators and co-created a powerful solution for the business that was completely disrupted and falling apart, because each one had a story of trust going on, wanting to fix the other one or wanting to make sure the others realized how they were breaking their trust. Wasn't solving anything. But when they came back to there is only me, what in me do I not trust? Aha, I don't trust myself to follow through. Or I don't trust myself to be consistent. I don't trust myself to keep the energy going for this long. Just simple recognition, like broke the pattern, declaring it to each other, immediately made them very powerful collaborators. And a solution was found. Literally click of a finger. I mean, I really love this series. Calling it the Human Miracle is the perfect title for it. Because whatever said and done, our expression of our soul presence is occurring through this human body. And this human body is your human body. And it does have 6 cylinders. They're not all tangible, and yet they have a very tangible effect on your choices and how you go about it. And the fourth one The fourth dynamic is the moment. The moment belongs to you. Everything else is transient. Everything else is transient. And in fact, even the moment you can say is transient, but if you station yourself in the moment and the moment belongs to you, you go from one moment to another, not being, attached to the moment that has just passed. You're actually present. And that presence of you is the best present you can give yourself. And your presence in the moment literally makes the moment timeless and limitless. Because in the moment, there is no past, there is no future, there is only what is. There is no meaning, there is only fact of what is. And even if the isness is simply that, here we are, you're listening to me and I'm bringing it through this transmission, all that you can be present to is the wowness of the moment. And then one moment follows another, and another follows after that. And there are such a rich collection of moments. That's why I call it the miracle lens, because in the moment, your vision, your sight, both your vision and your sight is only connected to the miracle of what is. And your heart operates moment to moment. And it's simply beating its way, singing its song. The moment belongs to you. Everything else is either past or future and has already fizzled out. And this is a very powerful. So if you meet someone who has hurt you in the past, and suddenly, they showed up in a party that you were so looking forward to enjoying, and this person showed up. I mean, hey, the party's a party, you're there. That's just the fact of it. And you were enjoying it up to this point in time. This person showed up. Boom, you've gone into the past. And you're now projecting into the future that, oh my God, this person was awful before, and now it's going to do this, that, or the other. And my future experience of the party is going to be as nasty as it was before. Or whatever it might be. You're disconnected from the moment. And you can come back to the moment because there is only you. And the moment belongs to you. You can literally come back to the moment and return to, I'm in this party here. And wow, I love the music. I love the flavors of the food that I'm, I can almost taste it. And I have a spring in my step. I'm healthy. I'm going to get that drink. You can immediately transform any experience without having to put blinkers on, without having to, program yourself with positive incantations when the reality doesn't match that. You can return to the moment in the worst of situation, come to the moment, get that miracle, attunement, and that gives you the strength that you require to address if it is something challenging that you're dealing with. Do you have anything you want to say before I go to the last three?
No, that distinction is really good. That you stay present in the moment. And, a lot of times, like you'll go, like you said, to the past or experience with a person, and it could be a whole different experience in that moment. Or you can set a healthy boundary for yourself, whatever, but you don't have to make it ruin your evening, like you said. You have a choice. So, but that comes up for a lot of people when they see people that give them a bad feeling or whatever. So
yeah,
it's really important that you always know you have a choice in that moment. to transform the energy or to walk away, do whatever you feel.
And remember one thing, that when that happens, like you see someone who's hurt you in the past suddenly appear at a party that you so wanted to have a good time at, and it immediately interrupts your enjoyment. Well, I mean, the guy didn't do anything, or the woman didn't do anything. They just showed up at a party, not knowing who else was going to be there.
Right.
Your thoughts went into the past and immediately projected those into the future.
Exactly.
Right? The future doesn't exist, neither does the past. Whatever might have occurred in the past, it doesn't exist right now. So you are like, you now got done a splits. And that is uncomfortable to hold for any length of time. So come back, and you can come back into the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really great to know that, the power does lie with you.
Yep. You always have a choice in the moment. Always.
Yes,
Yes.
always, always. The fifth dynamic is be, have. Be and you have. When you are engaged in doing, you're focused on the content and you're go, 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 like Arshaji talked about that, being in a certain situation, sometimes I just lie low and feel it's probably best not to say anything. And that's fine. But often what happens is, in that moment, we may experience a lot of disappointment within us. Our way of being is disappointed. And the way you are being screams so loud that what you are doing doesn't land. So the other people still hear and feel your disappointment. And you may find that their voices actually become louder because they want to really drum it in that, I'm not here, I'm not disappointing you. Look how good I am. There was a father-son dynamic I was just working with recently. And the father was saying to the son that you just are constantly seeking validation. And you're so entitled. It's difficult to keep seeing you so desperate to be validated all the time. And really all that was happening was the son would come and share some accomplishment he's had. And the listening filter of the father is, there he goes seeking validation again. So he's like really holding back. So the son is now like really elaborating on this accomplishment and why this accomplishment is an accomplishment. And the father is going, oh, God, there you go again. And the son is saying, well, don't you see, this is different, and like really, so the way the father was being without having spoken that there you go again, beating your own drum, the son really hears it, that father is not present to his accomplishment. So off he goes. And the way to shift that is to consciously shift your way of being. So even when you choose that, okay, this is not the moment for me to speak or express myself, or this is the moment for me to put my foot down, I would still say, choose your way of being. Choose your B word. I'm going to be resolved. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be magical. I'm going to be joyful. I'm going to be certain. And then do your communication coming from that intention of what it is that you wish that communication to deliver. And you have. But if you simply shut out, deep down you're feeling and experiencing whatever you're experiencing, and that is the do movement that you are projecting energetically. And people don't listen to the words. They actually hear how you're being, always. Like sometimes people say, I just love talking to you. You're just such a bearer of good news. And actually, I mean, I know for myself, I don't necessarily bring good news all the time. I think it's simply the way I'm being. And I'm being truly, madly, deeply in love with myself, which is my source mastery. And I hold that intention for you. So even when I say to someone, hey, you brought in this listening filter, and therefore you're not giving a chance for this other person to express themselves, they don't defend. They go into, aha, never thought about that. That's coming from the way I'm being, and that starts to shift the way the others are being. And that's why be and have social well-being the be is a very powerful dynamic. The sixth one is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of what is. So if you're feeling disgruntled, if you're feeling upset, or if you're feeling like you really want your own space, and right now is not the moment to express any of that, acknowledge it to yourself. Because if you don't, you hold resentment, you hold regret, or you hold fear that, I didn't express it, and what if I just run out of steam in the middle of this? There are times, like some of you know about my schedule at times, where I'm going from one session to another. And I have a live session happening as well, with like where I'm physically present in an offline session. I would not be able to do it if I'm not practicing acknowledgement of the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, all of it. So that way, I don't keep any load in me. I'm just clearing the load. Now, here's something else about acknowledgement. If you choose to use acknowledgement, to acknowledge people for the magnificence you see in them, or the brilliance that you see in them, simply saying, wow, you're brilliant, can after a while start landing as patronizing. And you just become noise. Your positive feedback just becomes noise. Acknowledgement is not just a positive word. It actually is elaborating on that. So it lands. It is received. I have transformed very disgruntled employees and jaded leaders simply by forward acknowledging who I know they are. By relating to examples of how they have shown up in this way in the past. Going to the seventh one, or maybe I'll give a little bit of an example on forward acknowledgement. So like when my son was young, he had a very typical only child syndrome, which is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine situation. And we'd moved into a new neighborhood, and he was going to meet the neighbors and their son. And my son loved collecting cars. He loved collecting yellow Lamborghinis for some reason at that age. And he would not share, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Or if you took it, he would not let anybody touch it because this would be mine type thing. And so I decided to use forward acknowledgement with him. And I said to him, you know what I really love about you? That you're so generous. You know how you do these things on your Game Boy games or on your PlayStation, and you get all of these levels and you share the achievement of those levels so your friends can also reach those levels. I just love it, the way you do it. It's so generous. Let's go meet Alex. You want to take some toys with you? And he says, yeah, I'd like to take these Lamborghinis. I want to share with him and we can play with it together. This I will give him so he can have it for a few days. I didn't ask him to share. I just acknowledged him for what I know he is, a generous giver. it takes a little bit of effort from your side, where you do notice their magnificence and you're able to then share and acknowledge them for that magnificence. And it's powerful in transforming social dynamics. And social well-being becomes your reality. You have access to in any disruptions. The seventh one is a statement, and a very potent one, which is what you say to you, you say to another. What you say to others, you say to yourself. You cannot say, appreciate someone else if you don't actually find that appreciation for yourself. And if you're putting yourself down or you're putting others down, you don't see what you're putting others down for if you don't have an inkling that exists in you. What you say to you, you say to another. What you say to others, you say to yourself. So what would you like to hear now? Find someone and say it to them. If you wish to feel appreciated, find someone, appreciate them. Because as you appreciate them, you appreciate you. Very, very important dynamic to understand. And this is the power of your words. Thinking words or spoken words. What you say to you say to another. What you say to others, you say to yourself. And you can switch it by choosing, what do I want to hear now? I want to hear encouragement. I want to be acknowledged for my courage. Find someone, acknowledge them for theirs. Social well-being is your reality. Over to you, dear. Unmute.
Oh, so I was saying this is just so rich and so wonderful. So the first one being listening, intently listening. The second dynamic, staying with empowered choice is the second dynamic. Woo. The third is there's only you. So just that being a focus when you remember that. The fourth is the moment belongs to you. So you are always in the presence of the moment, of the magic of the moment. The fifth one is always be in your being state, your way of being. And sixth, acknowledgement of what is in a magnificent way, keeping it in that magnificent lens. And the last one, which is so potent, last but not least, what you say to you, you say to others, and what you say to others, you say to you. So, woo, all of those together really help us with our social dynamic, really empower us to really have wonderful relations. So thank you, Mynoo. It was wonderful transmission tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight as well.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dale, you did a great job. Really great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale.
And Mynoo, you're
Thank you.
off the charts as always.
Thank you.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you.